The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Star Wars stories. How do you like that for a segue? Let's talk a little bit about Squadrons, which it's out about, what is it, about a month now? Maybe not even. It feels like
not even. Wow, yeah. It's fine. 2020 is 30 years long. We're all in this together. We're recording. It's been about 20 days.
Yeah. So it's been, the reception to Squadrons has been wild. I think really, really positive. I have to say, just last night. So I'm usually not an online player, but I feel like there's a lot to that. And I think one of the things that's really great about the game is that it builds that camaraderie. Last night I played for the first time with 4 people I knew, and just playing the game as a squadron together and talking to each other and flying was great. But there's a rich story in the story mode as well, which you built. Now, was it the same team on Battlefront as on Battlefront 2, or did you work with others?
Right? Okay. So the way it works out, all credit to Joanna Berry, who's the lead writer on Squadrons. Joe was the only writer on that project for a long time, right? She's building the story concept. She's figuring out who the characters are going to be. She's figuring out the faction rivalry, the structure. How are we going to do this? Is it going to be concurrent campaigns, like you play the same mission 2 different ways, or is it like new chapters every time you switch perspectives? That was all Joe. Joe did like an amazing amount of narrative design, character documentation, scene writing, all of that to build it, which was amazing because I came on board after Battlefront like, oh, you've just done you just have an awesome Star Wars story, and I get to help you write it. That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. That's so thoughtful, Joe. So now I've forgotten your original question.
No, just I forgot my question as well. No, I think it was just sort of about, was it the same team?
That was it. Yeah. So Joe was the lead writer, and then I came aboard to help Joe. There was just, the game was a lot for one writer, and having 2 writers on any project is always a dice roll, because it's like, that's technically a team,
right?
But the more the merrier, in my opinion, because there's always more content than you think when you're writing a game. Because it's not just scripts and scenes, right? You're not just writing these cutscenes. You're writing every line for every mission. The lines need to be precisely played and laid out and connect with each other, and all that kind of stuff. Plus, there's like systemic stuff. So it's like anything that happens, like there's a guy on your tail, so we tell you via a character saying, "There's one on my tail." It's informational stuff. In addition to, in the multiplayer, we gave all the characters as much personality as we could, so that, when you're playing with your friends, the fact that you have like that natural banter, perfect. The dream. It's everything we hoped and dreamed the game would be.
Yeah.
If you're playing alone, or not with voice chat, hopefully the pilots are doing that for you.
Right.
So it's a lot of writing. So I came on board, and then we got Walt Williams to come in and do some help with us. Yeah, Walt came aboard. He did a bunch of phenomenal character work. He improved our missions tenfold. Like, good team effort. It was like, I was so happy to be working with Joe and Walt at the same time.
It's interesting as a story too, because I think, for me, playing the story and getting back into it through the story, which I think, again, it's a really nice way to put it together. You play the story and you learn the ropes, and then you go out and get your butt kicked by some 12-year-old out in Wyoming who's just playing all day. But what I think is interesting is the way you went about, is, as you said, making that decision to, how do you bring both factions into it. And similar to Battlefront 2, how did you decide where the story was going to take place? It feels like, and maybe it's a Disney and Lucasfilm decision, it feels like they're moving more forward from, or trying to fill that gap before Force Awakens and
I was
Jedi.
like, wait, which one was first?
What? Yeah. Was it always going to be in that time frame, or?
Yeah, it was always going to be in that like post 6 time frame. And it's funny too, because I think the reason you see so many Star Wars stories in that time frame right now is just, I think a lot of it is, okay, we know that stuff happened after Jedi, right? Before the Battle of Jakku, like there was a war, the rise of the New Republic, this new government that becomes peace. how do we get there? That's an interesting story. And showing different versions of that story in different mediums is really interesting. I think it's also it's a nice way to have that familiar ships, the familiar conflict, right? The Empire and the Rebellion, even though there's no emperor, but there's these new figures in charge, thanks to the vast media that is Star Wars. It feels structurally sound. Like the Empire does still have power. They're on the back foot, but Sloane's a badass. So let's see where that goes.
Yep. It's
interesting. Gosh, again, I'm sorry, I forgot your question. As soon as we could talk about Star Wars, I'm just lost.
No, that's totally fine. No, I was just trying to understand, choosing the time frame to play, because also, and I think as a Star Wars nerd like myself, I wasn't even aware of, or I like the color that you put there, because I wasn't aware of, when did the Empire start to change? When did it kind of go from, there's the time frame that you had from Battlefront 2, and then you have this time frame where it's an Empire in shambles. And I think as somebody who, I saw Return of the Jedi when I was 12 years old. Death Star blew up. They had a party on Endor. The end. They played drums on some stormtrooper heads, and it's over. But I think one of the interesting challenges, and one of the things I think video games have done perhaps an even better job than some of the books, and just because you're immersed in it, is kind of showing that it wasn't okay, we lost, we're done, let's hand in our weapons kind of thing.
Yeah, and I like it because it's not just, I don't think that they feel just like fan service, right? I don't think it's like it's just Rebel and Empire stuff and they're just doing it for fan service. I really feel like there is an attachment there that's genuine, and there's a lot of interesting opportunities for interesting stories. And you see it across all eras right now. Everybody is firing on all cylinders, doing new stories in all eras, using new characters and old. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about some of the character decisions. And I think one of the things that Star Wars is doing a really nice job of is capturing representation without and without like hitting you over the head with it. It's just the characters are there. Was that a conscious decision, or did it just seem to make sense, like with a character like Keo and even just having the representation of you have not only every race, but different types of creatures and things in the story. It feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. I never feel like here's a message. It's just this is the story.
I mean, that's it. It's like in our world here, you and I, there are people around us who are different and they're great. And in the world of Star Wars, there's a bunch of people who look different and are different species. There's lizard men. There's psychic baby swamp monsters. Like there's an infinite possibility space for what can exist in this universe, right? So yeah, like of course there should diversity should be normalized. That should not even be a question not a question, like a concern to people. And I've seen some concerns that it's they're doing it for some political agenda. I don't get it. It's like, no, man, like there are just people that look this way or identify this way, and that's a completely normal life experience, and it would be a very normal life experience in Star Wars too, because it's a galaxy where anything's possible. Yeah. And in my perspective, as bleak as Star Wars can be in terms of like subject matter and planet destruction, like it's a very hopeful, optimistic place. And I don't think that isolating identities in that space is beneficial for anybody.
Yeah. I always find it just baffling that people can have an issue. I mean, it's a world where literally in the very first movie you saw 50 different races in a bar, and it's so why wouldn't you have everything and beyond what's on our real world planet, and not and enjoy and have insight to everything else? Do you ever get, I mean, as a writer, whether it's for journalism, video game journalism, or writing for a video game, do you ever find yourself getting sort of sucked into the conversation online, and how do you deal with
I can't resist, man.
Yeah,
I can't. I live on Reddit. I love reading people's thoughts on things. I love the good. I love the bad. I can take it all. The bad definitely, like, I've got thick skin about it, but some of the bad stuff still sticks with me for sure. So I shouldn't be doing it, but I do, because I like hearing how people are responding to things, good and bad. I like seeing, which characters stand out as interesting, what kind of experiences people are having. That did we nail the experience? Are they having the experience that we predicted? like you mentioned specifically that the single player was a good way to introduce you to a lot of gameplay concepts. That was a huge thing for the game. We were like, campaign not only needs to be an interesting, engaging Star Wars story, it has to be able to kind of make anybody who plays it feel comfortable playing multiplayer, because we want people to play multiplayer because it's awesome.
Yep.
And the general sentiment is pretty positive. Like, it's a lot of the kind of stuff you're saying, which is like, yeah, I felt ready. Like, maybe I'm not very good, but I feel ready.
Yeah. No, it's so fun too, because I just put it on on the news show that I am part of on our network. I said, the difference between this multiplayer online experience and, say, Fortnite, when my 8-year-old son just kicks my ass and I don't even stand a chance, is I don't want to throw my controller across the room when I'm playing this. I'm like, oh, I got 1 kill and 1 assist, and my squad got murdered.
Everyone has those games, man.
But it was fun. Yeah,
I go 1 in 30 all the time.
But it's just such a great. It's a great experience. And so I have to ask, because I grew up with X-Wing and TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. You brought some of those old classic ships back into it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny too, because my dirty secret is I am not X-Wing and TIE Fighter is the one big gaming gap in my knowledge. Because I didn't have a PC, right? So I have no affinity for it at all. And then by the time I was like, oh, that'd be cool, the whole thing is like, well, you need this like weird joystick setup. I'm not gonna do that. So I missed those games completely, right?
Right.
So like that transformative experience everybody had with it was alien to me. I had different ones. So when I came aboard, I'm not really a flight sim guy. I'm not big. Like, I was like, first person only, man. That's risky. That's because I immediately want to pull that camera back. I love Battlefront's the camera in the Starfighter. So, but then the first time I sat in the cockpit and I'm playing the game, the early test versions of what we're looking to do, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, yeah, everything I need is right here. Everything I thought I'd be missing, like visibility, all gone. Like, all my concerns evaporated. I was like, yes, this is cool.
Yeah.
But the challenge is, there's many challenges, but a few storytelling challenges when you're making a game like this is, one, we're committing as much as possible to first person, right? We have some cutscenes because we want to have nice cinematic, stylish things to show off big ships and characters and introduce you to events and things in interesting ways. But for the majority of the story, we want you to be in first person. We want you to be absorbing things through the characters, your wingmates, your intelligence officer. So that limits how you can tell that story, because it has to happen in first person. And not only that, but the game is VR compatible front to finish, right?
Right.
So you have to assume everybody's playing in VR. Okay, so what's going on behind you? You can't have players like that. You got to have stuff there for them. So we're like placing characters for conversations like around you, so you can look around your hangar. If you're in VR, you're going to feel like you're there. You're like, oh, there's somebody over there. So staging where characters are, and then obviously the conversations they have in the social hub between missions, correlating to what you're doing, where you're going, who they are, where they've been, was a nice way to have a first person, like face-to-face time, like real face-to-face time with the characters between missions. So we had like a little bit of downtime between big battles, so you can get to know the crew.
Yeah. And it's funny to me. I'm so pissed because I had I traded my PSVR for an Oculus VR, and then
for the Quest.
Yes, for the Quest, and Quest 1 even. So like I overpaid because now Quest 2 is smaller, better, faster, cheaper, as all technology is, right? Is it sitting there? There it is.
So tiny of me doing ads for Facebook like they need it.
Yeah,
your Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. But I remember playing the Battlefront 1 X-Wing experience in VR because when I had it.
How did we skip that amid all this?
I don't know. So did you develop? Was that yours?
I had no part in that at all.
Okay.
No, that was all Criterion who did all the vehicle combat for Battlefront 2.
So did you pull on some of their? I mean, I know you're a historian, not a tech guy, but did you pull on some of the technology? Because it feels very much, a lot of it kind of doesn't feel like that, but it looks like the similar interfaces and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like technical beyond my ability to comprehend it. But,
right.
The way it generally works is when you make a game, you build a set of tools and technologies that you can use to make your game better and perform at good frame rates and install at a reasonable size. and render in a beautiful way, right? Frostbite's a beautiful rendering engine with a lot of people at EA using it. So the benefit of that is, and the engine can be troublesome to work in. It's tough, but it's powerful. It's a really powerful engine. So everybody EA working on it means everybody can kind of work together to make stuff. So anytime you make a game, everything you learn, everything you've built can then be passed forward to anybody else who's making games. So it's again, it's kind of like a relay where it's like, oh, we're going to hand you some new stuff and you're going to hand some new stuff after you build it. It's just a smart way to do it. So some stuff came over from Battlefront into the VR game, and then some stuff came from Battlefront to Squadrons. But then Squadrons has a completely different art direction. It's got like like more film grain and lots more color. It's a little teeny bit more stylized, I think.
Yeah, I really like the way it even as subtle as just the stylization of sort of, even when you switch from one faction to the next in the missions, it's kind of it's really well, and
it's so cool. The first time I saw concept art for that, where it's like background is orange and foreground is different shades and the character silhouettes, I was like, that's cool. I really hope that actually is something we ship. And it's exactly what it looks like, and it's rad.
Yeah, and your point about VR, I think, is really important, because I think I feel it makes me want to find a way to play it in VR, because I think standing in that hangar would be amazing. It's one thing to look around with your joystick and up and down and around, but to be able to be immersed in it must be the way to play it. It almost feels like it was designed, as you just said, it was designed VR first, I guess, right?
Day one, we always knew it was going to be a VR game. Like, and some of the guys on the team, right? Like Ian Fraser, our creative director, James Camon, our lead designer, those guys, they love VR. So they were champions from the very beginning. They're like, this is a VR game. Like, it's not mandatory. It's just awesome in VR. And everything you can do in the normal game, you can do in VR.
Yeah.
And it was such a great approach. And it just feels so natural for this. And like, I know that I worked on the game, and I was at the company for a long time, so I have a bias and a vested interest. But I truly, genuinely, as a Star Wars fan, it is a religious experience in VR.
Yeah. Now, did you worked on? Did you work on Fallen Order as well?
I did not. No.
Okay.
That was friends at Respawn.
Okay, right. Well, right. Respawn did that, right?
Yes.
I remember. In fact, the sort of overt calling regeneration respawning in the game was kind of a funny little thing. But it's a great time to be a Star Wars. It's finally. I think we went through sort of a lull in Star Wars gaming, in that there wasn't much, and then there is such a high bar set for anything Star Wars. I think whether you're reading a new novel or you're getting a new action figure, you have an expectation. And I think the great thing is these games are meeting those expectations, and is as I said before, like, this is one of those games that there was so much hype for it and there was so much expectation. I think people have jumped into it and really are absolutely enjoying it very much, which is really exciting, and it's good. And now I have to ask you, and you're no longer with EA with the studio here, but
we can be lawless. I got no PR boundaries anymore.
Go for it, have some fun. No, I thought it was interesting that they've been sort of very open about not planning DLC. Is there a reason for that, do you think? Or
because and I feel comfortable talking about this. The game is small, right? Not like small, but like the team was originally a very small, passionate team who wanted to make a small pilot game. They just passion project, right? We love X-Wing, we love Rogue Squadron. This is a slam dunk. We got to do it, guys. Right? So everything about the project from the very beginning was super focused. Everything, like, from a production perspective in terms of scale and scope, responsible, right? We don't want to get too big, or it's going to be too much and it's going to be too hard to ship. And we have the best chance at a green light for a small team, small project. Let's go. So it was always very focused. And when I came aboard the team, it really felt like an indie team inside of a AAA studio, because everybody was just scrappy and people were wearing multiple hats, and it wasn't a ton of people. Obviously, you get into production, you hire more people to help out and make the dreams a reality. But it, for a long time, was a very small team with a very focused vision. And that's the game that shipped.
Right.
And I totally understand the desire for more.
Right.
Because it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it comes from a place of just being I think about that game like, and I know it's weird because it's a AAA publisher and it's the biggest IP on the planet, but I think about it almost like an indie production because it was so small for so long, and it was just people toiling away on this cool concept that the more people saw it, the more they were like, I would like to make that.
So what would stop them from sort of creating additional DLC? Is it have they shut the team down or what?
It depends because every studio does things differently, and I don't know what the plans are right now. But
Right.
you finish a production, and usually it's like, all right, I roll on to the next project, whatever that is, or I go help that team do something. So I think when you're scoping out a game like this, and it's going to be focused, like, all right, cool, campaign, cinematics, got some expensive there. Okay, multiplayer modes, we got a few of those. Okay,
Yeah.
If we stop there, it's pretty responsible. The game is awesome. It's $40. Like, perfect.
Right.
It felt like, because the whole idea was, because the team was small and passionate, the whole concept was, we want to make a game that's like a gift for people. Is how Ian, the director, used to talk about it, as a gift, because we know they want it. We know fans want it because we want it.
Yeah.
We desperately want this game, and we can make it. So let's do it. And let's do it right. Let's do it in a way that feels respectful of players and honors their time and their money and their interest. And I hope there's a sequel. I hope that the game is crushing. EA has an earnings call soon. I'm like very eager to hear that call and know how that game performed.
Yep.
Which is like boring business stuff, but I love it. I love finding out how games sold, and I don't know what the metric is for, like, if it hits X million, it'll get a sequel. I have no idea. I don't know how any of this works.
Well, I think it's interesting. The reason I think I'm interested but curious about it is because I mean, Battlefront 2 should have been done 2-3 years ago, right? I mean, but the DLC is keeping people so committed to that game. There's people who, I mean, my son who's 8, who moves on from game to game to game. We were looking at games to, we're going back to GameStop. Let's trade in a couple games. I was like, you still playing Battlefront? He's like, yes, I'm still playing Battlefront. So
love to hear it.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of DLC would go a very long way, but I know it's not your choice and your decision and your impact anymore. But
I agree. I'm already hounding all my designer friends. I'm like, when's ranked dogfight? Come on, guys. When's ranked dogfight? Like, I want it. I want to earn some MMR in like that mode. It's cool. This is the fun thing too, is like, I left EA in July. The game wasn't out yet.
Right.
I finished my work. I'm ready to go. I got a new project. I'm going to go do anything. I get just enough distance after the game, from leaving until the game launches, that I start to miss it. Right. When you're working on a thing every day, you're like, I don't know if this is good. Like, maybe this game's a 4 out of 10. Maybe it's an 11. I have no idea. Right. Depending on the day, you're like, we are doing something cool. Or like, no, what are we doing? Sorry, again, I've lost my train of thought.
It's no worries. It's an exciting, and again, congratulations to you for delivering a game that in a way it was almost like the prequels, right? In that you had
I love this already.
You had new Star Wars fans who had whatever expectation, and then you had people like me who X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and those games, I've said it now like 27 times on this interview, that was my Star Wars game. And I was concerned, and I think this is where it wins. I think this is where one of the reasons this works so well is because my concern was exactly what I was saying before. When I play any online game, whether it's NHL or Fortnite or whatever, I get my butt handed to me and it becomes not fun. Right. And I'm just like, all right, screw it. I'm just going to play the solo version and I'm going to be fine. But this game, they were able to deliver something that's fun for all levels. And I think that's really, really, and it's also creating a sense of community. I mean, through my network, I'm wearing we created, something we call Voodoo Squadron, and we're like, we're recruiting people to come in and play with us, and we post online when we're going on. And I said, last night there were 5. I'm going to send you the information. I expect to play with you sometime.
Hell yeah.
But it's capturing the positive part of the community, and we referenced it before, and I think it's worth mentioning. Star Wars right now is going through both some of the most divisive conversations ever since The Last Jedi, like it or not. It's the fan base has been split, but there's been 2 things that people have been able to agree on lately. One is Mandalorian is awesome, and 2, Star Wars Squadrons is a blast to play. And that's congratulations for being a part of something that's so important to the.
Thank you. It's
the group.
inconceivable that we're in that conversation too. To me, like we had hopes that it was cool. We were excited about things. We knew what we liked. We knew what got us excited as Star Wars fans. But like that, people are having those kinds of conversations of like, yeah, like if Mandalorian's coming this month at Squadrons, it's a good time. It's like, man, I never thought I would be able to make anything that was in that tier of like what means something to people.
That's amazing. That's great. Well, cool. So I could go on for hours, and perhaps I'll have you on again sometime, and we'll probably chat some more over.
Definitely. Let's do a part 2
next week.